One of my favorite design platforms to use is Kittl. What makes it different than so many others is that it's basically a much more straightforward version of Adobe Illustrator, which means you're able to take your designs to the next level without having to be an advanced graphic designer, which I don't know about you, I'm not one of those. One of the benefits in Kittl is that you can easily start from one of their many templates that are available to use for print-on-demand purposes that you can easily transform into a winning design for your specific audience. But for today's video, I actually want to share with you 10 of my favorite Kittl hacks that either one, are little shortcuts to make the process faster, or two, will allow you to add some unique personality to your designs. In case we haven't met yet, my name is Mandy, and as the owner of multiple six-figure businesses, including Etsy print-on-demand shops, my goal is to provide you with strategies to simplify the journey and scale your business faster so that you can stop the overwhelm, start making progress, and thrive with your print-on-demand business. Let's dive right in. The first little hack is when you come in here to start a new project, you can actually work from print-on-demand presets. So if you click on pod presets, depending on which provider you use, you can see there are lots of options here. So I work with Printify and I'm often creating for apparel, so I can very easily click on t-shirt Printify, and now it's perfectly got the right ratio for exactly what I'm going to be designing for. And I've got the DPI already set in here as well. It's set for a portrait orientation for a typical shirt if you're going from top to bottom. So this is a great way to get started when you are first coming into Kittl. And you don't even have to think about all of the different template sizes. Many of the main ones are right here for you and ready to go. And so from here, you can simply click on create, and now you've got your preset ready. The next one I want to show you is how to use the art transformation to create one of the trendy styles that's currently out on Etsy using kind of this very varsity style font, which Kittl does have in their font library. It's called University. And then when we come down here to transformation, I love to use these. And so you can see it automatically created an arch. And when I am making sure that I've got this nice and even, you can come up to settings, and I actually like to turn on show grid, and you can increase the size of the grid lines there if you'd like to. And so in doing so, I can then edit the transformation. So if I don't want this arch to be quite so tall, I can edit this, and then I can use the grid lines to make sure I've got it nice and even. So then I can come down here, grab this one, and bring that down. So it's, again, a very easy and fast way to create this style of a design simply with the click of a button. And again, you can adjust a lot of these different functions here. In addition to the grid, you can also adjust the arch as well. I like to have a tall arch so that it gets a little skinny here. And then, like I said, use that transformation and editing to create a slightly different effect. The next one is what I like to call a double border, and this can be used a couple of different ways. One is normally when you turn on the border, it goes inside the design. So you can see how it's making the inside of the design here a lot skinnier. But what if I really want to keep that bold font there without having that happen? So I'm going to make this border darker so you can see exactly what I'm going to do. And like I said, one option is to have this turned on first. And if I do that and come up to effects, then I can click on the shading one, this one right over here where it's a block shadow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the offset all the way down, and then I'm going to turn on an outline. And then what I will do is I will change this to another bright color so that you can see it. Maybe I'll make it really bold. This is not a design choice that I would personally make, but I want to make sure you can really see what we are working on here. And so you can see now, as I zoom in, I've got double multiple borders here. So I can have one that's controlled by this outer border and one that's controlled by the main inner border, and that makes it skinny. And if I turn this off, now if I wanted to have just this border on the outside and make that nice and large, I can do that, and it's still maintaining this bold main font along the way. The other thing I will sometimes do with this is I will turn on that inside border, but I will make it white. And so what that will do in effect is it will create almost like a little gap there. Now this will show up, so if we have our background and let's say it's on kind of a gray shirt, you'll still see that white, but I actually like this because it kind of makes the design pop overall. The next one that I want to show you is how easy it is to do a text transformation to really fill literally any shape you could think of. This works especially great if you've got a specific niche where there are particular design elements or silhouettes that you could bring in that relate to what it is. So for example, if this was a dog mama shirt, I could bring in this silhouette of an Australian Shepherd. And if I wanted to incorporate some personalization as an example, I've just got the name Charlie in here. And then to transform this and create a shape that I can move around and distort, I'm going to go over here to the distort button. And what this does is this gives me lots of different levers that I can then pull and start to move around. So if I grab each of these, I can start to move that text around in a lot of different ways. And so I can grab the corner, I can bring this down here, and then I can really make this text as though it is fitting that shape perfectly. So again, it's just another way to add some personality to your design that would normally be a lot more complicated to do. And I like that you can make changes very easily. So if I clicked out of here accidentally and then I click back in, I can just as easily as click on transform and I can go right back to what I was doing. And so there's a lot of different ways that you could incorporate something like this into your design. The next hack is probably one of my favorites because I use it a lot, especially working with different dog breeds in the dog shop that I use for this channel. And so one of the things that I like to do is use the image vectorizer. And so anytime, like I got this from, I believe, Creative Fabrica, and I needed at one point to make some changes to this to make it a lighter colored dog. Now, normally I would be pretty stuck if this was a static image. It's a PNG. You can see I don't have any options up here to change the colors. However, if I come over here to the image vectorizer, I can then max this out. I usually max it. You can just do a couple of colors, and I'll show that in a second, but I wanted to max this out, and then I just click on vectorize image. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this image, it's going to convert it into a vector, which means then I'll be able to manipulate all of the different colors that are part of this design. So once that runs, you can see I now have 14 different colors up here that I can change. And so in the example of, say, I wanted this to be a lighter colored dog, I can very easily come up here and start making and selecting lighter colors. So maybe I wanted to get rid of some of these colors. I want to remove some of that extra definition that's in there. And so I can easily just start playing around. I can make these lighter, but not quite white if I wanted to. So it just gives you a lot of different options by doing this to start to make some changes to your image and design you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. And so you can see now I'm getting quite a bit lighter. I don't necessarily want to get rid of that one entirely, but maybe I lighten it up a bit. And so again, when you're able to play around with and make changes to these colors, gives you a lot more different options with your design that you wouldn't ordinarily have when you're just working with a straight PNG where the colors are locked down. The other hack within this is I want to show you how you can actually take something like this, which does have that outer kind of outline definition, but isn't actually an outline. So maybe you want to create one of the trendy designs where it's just an outline of whatever the image is. You can take this color version and then I'm going to turn it into an outline style design. Let me show you what I mean. So first, I'm actually just going to change the color of this backdrop just so you can see it a little more clearly when I do it. And then when I come in here, I'm going to repeat the process, but instead of maxing it out, I'm just going to, in this case, start with 2 colors and let that run. Now when I do that, you can see it pulled a tan and it left that dark black in there. And that's what I wanted it to do because, watch this, I grab that tan color and then instead of having it a color, I get rid of the color. And so now I have a perfect outline that is going to then, so if this is on a t-shirt, for example, you'll be able to see the color through that. So again, it's a perfect outline of that image. The other thing you can do too is say you're designing for apparel and you want a dark outline for your lighter colored shirts, but you also want to be able to offer some darker color shirts. I can now, because this is a vectorized, I can change the color of that black. So then I would want to change that to a white, and now you've got an outline of this image that originally started as a full color PNG that we've now converted and been able to make some changes and make really a totally different design with this one graphic that we started with. The next one I'm going to show you is on this kind of floral boho design. And I want to focus on the lettering here at the top. So one of the things that I like to do is when you've got a script font, sometimes you'll see these scripts where there's some very flourished letters within the words that they're using. And you can do that by using what's called glyphs. And some fonts, whether it's through Kittl or whether you're getting it through Creative Fabrica, they have options where you can see where there are glyphs available within a font family. And so, for example, this one is part of Kittl's standard font library, which is Sunship. I really like this font, and it does have glyphs. So let me show you how to use those. So let's say here in the middle of the word, we want to break this up and have something fancier. And so right over here on the right-hand side is a little button. It looks like an A with a plus sign, and those are your glyphs. And if we scroll through that, these are all of the different glyphs or accents basically that are available with this particular font family. So some of these are standard. That looks like the one that we just got rid of. And if we keep scrolling, we'll see a few different options. So if I scroll down, if I look for other S's, I can see if there are any that are going to have a little more flair to them. So for example, here is one that has that flair. So if I click on that, I've now got that incorporated. Or if I didn't want that, I could do something at the end. So if I got rid of that last G, I could have something that really rounds out the end of this word. And so we'll scroll back down to where we saw a few of those different options. And we will grab one that is the G. So you can see there's one that goes down like that one. There is another one over here. And if we scroll to see if there is any others, I can grab this one right here is what I'm looking for. So now, again, we've got just a little added flair. You might need to adjust your spacing a little bit or recenter it and realign it. But again, that can be a fun way to incorporate some interest in your design. Next, I want to show you how to very easily change the colors of a design without having to go through and individually change all of them. So let's say, for example, we've got this design. I made this on a previous video if you want to see how I did this. But let's say this is a design that is selling well I want to create maybe a Valentine's version of it or a different seasonal version of it. Instead of having to go through and change every letter, because in Kittl, in order to manipulate each of these separately and have separate colors, I created each of these separately. All I need to do is come down here to the bottom to these project colors, and these are going to be all of the colors that are in this project. So if I started with, let's say, the blue one, and again, if we're going for Valentine's, we want some of the pinks and the reds. So I can very easily start sliding this around and pick a different color palette or different color that I want to start with for this design. And then I can go to the next one. So maybe I want this one to be a lighter pink, and so we make some changes there. Can make this nice and bright. Maybe I want this one a little bit brighter, a little more on the pink spectrum, and so we can make some adjustments here. And then let's say on this yellow one, I want it to be a lighter pink, and so I can start to lighten that up a bit and find something that works for that. And literally I could come in here, I could add a heart or maybe a few other little things to this, and I have instantly, in all of like 30 seconds, made a seasonal version of a design that I know will do well for my particular niche. And so again, just a really super fast and easy way to change up a design and try something new and different. The other thing that you can very easily do within Kittl is add texture. So obviously one of the really big trends on Etsy is to have what's considered a grunge or a texture or a distressed texture within your design. In Kittl, they literally have an entire section of grunge textures. So my favorite one, though there are quite a few different ones that you could experiment with, I actually like this first one, and it's going to look weird at first. And what I'll do is I will change this background a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Now, the mistake I sometimes see with designing is they turn that on and then they export their file and then they can't figure out why it now has all of this extra stuff. So there's a couple things you'll want to do with this. One, when you add a texture on like this, you've got a few different options. So this is often the default, which is the color burn. I actually like the alpha mask because then that's where you get a little bit more of kind of that see-through look. Then I'm just going to drag this opacity down so I've got much more of that distressed look as part of my design. So that is one option. You can also do an overlay, but again, a lot of these don't work quite as well for an example, apparel. So generally, like I said, Alpha Mask is the one that I use. And then the last thing you want to make sure you do with this once you've got it adjusted is you want to clip content. And what that does is that gets rid of all the extra noise in the rest of the design because it's clipping that texture to only your design. And so that is kind of that missing step that I quite often see that needs to occur, so that then when you go to download and you download it as a transparent design, you don't have all of the extra texture outside of your design. The next one that I want to show you actually looks really cool, and it's one of my favorite things to do with text in Kittl, and that is kind of a faux text cutout. So here's what I mean by that. I've got an image of a dog here, and then I've just got the word doodle in large letters. If you wonder what that means, this is a golden doodle. It's a breed of dogs. It's a great niche to design in, and it's one that's in my dog shop. So one of the things that's super fun to do with this is I will take this design. I'm going to be working in layers. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do Control C and then Control V on my computer. And that has given me essentially two designs or two copies of this dog design. And so if you want to rename them over here, you can. Just for now, I'm going to leave those as is. And then for the words, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to essentially just do a copy paste of that design. Now, here's where it gets fun. So over here in the layers, I'm going to grab one of the dog layers and I'm going to move it all the way to the bottom. And then I'm going to add one of the doodle layers and I'm going to move it to the top. And then what I'm going to do here, so if you look at the layers, I've got words, picture, word, picture, and that is the order. And then what I'm doing is I'm grabbing this top copy of the text and I'm turning on the border to match the other color. And then I'll make that bigger. And then here's where it gets fun. I'm going to grab the color of the text and I'm going to get rid of the color. And now I have a cutout with this dog that what I want to do is see how I'm moving the layers separately. When you do this, you want to make sure you're grabbing both layers. So to do that, I just grab them like that. And then I don't want to group them because that will form it back into one layer. I just want to make sure I have both of them grabbed when I'm making movements in the design. So right now, see, I didn't grab that second layer. And so when I do that, I just want to make sure I'm grabbing both of them when I move it. Same thing with text. I'm just grabbing it with my mouse to move over that way so that when I move it, the whole thing moves all at once. Again, super easy way to make a really interesting design that looks like you spent hours on it, but took no time at all. And then the last one that I want to show you is creating a text path with, again, virtually any shape that you can think of. So with this image, I've just got, a travel background. I used a mask, which is one of the options here in Kittl, and I dragged an image that I got from Creative Fabrica over to the mask. And so it essentially snaps that image to whatever shape mask or outline that you've got. And let's say with this, I'm doing a travel niche, and so I want something at the bottom that could maybe be customized to a different location or maybe a travel destination. And so I'm going to add in a banner, and let's grab that one just for something simple, and we'll put it along the bottom. And let's say this is going to be just a template design, and for now I'm just going to add Boulder, Colorado, because I know there's a lot of mountains there. And so we'll add that as our text. And so I'm just going to expand that, nothing too fancy. And now normally in other systems you could kind of get it in there, but you can see it doesn't quite follow that path. And again, normally you would need something like an Adobe Illustrator to really create some complex text paths. But we don't have to do that in Kittl. Instead, I'm going to expand the letters here just a little bit so it really fills up our space to really maximize the effect of this. And then what I'm going to do once I've got that centered is I'm going to click on custom over here in our transformation area. Again, I love using this section, and there are so many different ways that you can leverage this in your design. And now you can see, similar to our art transformation or our distort transformation that we did previously, we've got all of these little pull points. And so now we can pull this text along a different path, and we can start to essentially mold it to this particular shape. And again, in this case, we've got kind of a nice little swish with our banner here. So we can make adjustments to this text to make it fit much better in this design. It's one of those ones where I just like to play around with it and get creative because it does open up so many more possibilities to your design process. Now, in addition to all of these time-saving and design hacks, Kittl also has a huge library of AI resources. Between quote generators and advanced AI image creation, it's opening up a whole new world of designing for print on demand. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a video on using their AI technology as well. If you want to try out Kittl for yourself, I've got a link for you in the description where you can get started for free. Some features and elements do require a pro account, but you can definitely try it out and see if it works for you. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you want to learn more about my strategies for thriving in your print-on-demand business, Make sure you've got the notifications turned on for my channel so that you don't miss out on any of my upcoming content. And in the meantime, be sure to check out my free print-on-demand masterclass in the description, as well as my time blocking series here on my channel for an even deeper dive on the critical steps for print-on-demand success. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad you're here, and I'll see you in the next one.